And here we have my favorite car, which is an E36. I thought it was an M3, it's a good illusion, it's not, but it has M3 stuff all over it, wide body, looks beautiful from the outside, with the coolest BMW engine that you could probably put in one of these, which is an S54, besides like, you know, a V8 or a JZ or something. But I really like the naturally aspirated stuff for the M3s. These cars have like, the reason I love this chassis so much is with an SLR kit, they're so playful and fun to drive. I just love them. And if you put a ton of power in them, I'm sure they're fantastic and everything, but it's really fun to wring these things out, and having just a 3-liter inline 6, 3.2, whatever, inline 6 just kind of feels right in this chassis. Because I do have a bunch of other high horsepower cars. So if there's any car on Drift Week I wanted that I don't have to add to my collection, it's probably this car. And it's owned by Duarte, get over here, from Drift HQ. I'm gonna ask you some questions.
Yeah.
He's an amazing speaker. I just did another episode with him, so I can literally just ask him 5 questions and he's gonna talk for half an hour and I can get out of here because everybody always complains I talk too much. So I want him to tell me about the car. I want him to tell me mostly about the adventure, what it's like driving this car around on Drift Week, what it's like, you know, trying to get it from place to place, what disasters they've had, what in particular has been the biggest hurdle and taken them out of, you know, part of the trip. Just things like that, because most people have not experienced going on a trip like this that are watching. Most people don't understand what breaks, don't understand what's important, don't understand, like, say the ride height. People be like, oh, it's too high, whatever. You're like, this thing works perfectly on the street and is built for this trip. Get talking.
Yeah, man. So the car has been mine, I would say, like around me, I would say for the past 10 years or so. This car, I originally purchased it as a M52 turbo. The car has had at least, I would say, like 8 owners. So it's been sold, come back again, sold. I bought it. Last time that I bought this thing was just a shell, no motor, piece of crap, just thrown in the side, and I couldn't pass it up. It's one of those like attachment things that you feel, you're like, okay, let's just have it on the side. Then the virus hit and we're like, let's make a whole build series, how to build a budget-friendly car. It just happens to be that mid-build of this car, Aaron messaged me and he's like, hey, you want to be a part of Drift Week? And message actually the Drift HQ page, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Because I do have other build cars, but I don't think that they could possibly be on an easier car to drive than like this or a 350Z on a trip. And he said he didn't want a lot of 350Zs, and I don't like 350Zs. I've had these cars since I was 15 years old. They're easy to drive, they're easy to work on, and essentially we're like, I have an S54 there and I have the shell. I purchased it back, I think, for 500 bucks. It was still in my name. People just kept selling it to each other, and like they gave me the title. I'm like, this is the best thing that could ever happen. It wasn't my name, so I'm like, okay. We started off with just making it nice and easy, preparing the chassis, welding plates, subframe, all the good stuff, and making it simple as we could possibly make it. It's not an M3 like you just said. It's just it's a 92 325 OBD1, and I've watched a lot of the other videos of the first Drift Week. A lot of Chelsea Denofa, like in his little TI, just ripping, having a blast in the whole thing, and working less on the car. There's nothing I hate more than getting to a track, or either me having to work on a car, the boys have to work and get like the least amount of seat time. I don't generally get to drive as much as I want to, because we have to take care of the business, the van, and get things in order. So a lot of the times, so when he messaged me, I'm like, yeah, I'm all in, because this is gonna give me the most amount of seat time that I could possibly have, and have the guys here at the same time in case something breaks. I can still go back to the van, help other people out while the guys work on the car. So we kept it simple. We use a CNC 71 kit. It's a budget-friendly kit, drives excellent on the street. 500 bucks, you get a full arm, like beefy tie rods on this, and a lot of people are buying it, so I wanted to feel it for myself. You drive this thing on the highway, feels like a stock car, but once you're drifting, you're like, wow, it's got almost as much angle as an SLR. But it's very easy to install. The arms are full steel. Great thing on this. So dual caliper kits. We had the cheapo NRG seats in this, and I drove it for like a month on it, and I'm like, no, I'm definitely not taking this road trip. We put these Prisma Zens. These things are comfortable. These are like luxury seats. I haven't had any back problems, and my back is torn up. So we threw in the prismas like 2 days before we came here, and pretty much like put over fenders on the car, fitment lab, nice. Once we put these wheels, they actually like made the car. We weren't gonna do much of like any over fenders, just keep the stock body, but then I had these wheels laying around. I traded it for a car, and I'm like, let's put these wheels. Once it was that, I'm like, okay, it's getting a full repaint. Like it's not. I fell in love with it. The blue is like the Nissan blue. Originally it was already blue, but you see it's like a little lighter than the actual color than it is now. So I saw the 350Z. I wanted a color that was cheap, easy to find. I could beat it up and not care about it. Put a low rise LTW wing. Something we did that I've only seen on race cars is that like we put quad, not only, we didn't just put the tips, we actually put like 2 full mufflers in the back. Big diffuser, people love that stuff. And something that we thought about last minute. I'm not sure if it's gonna work here because I don't know if the tank is completely full or not, but we put an air jack system on this car. So the air jack,
show us if it works.
So we will try. If it does not work all the way, it's okay. So see, it doesn't have enough air. Doesn't have enough air to get it all up all the way right now, but we've been using it. We did this the last like night before the car was picked up by the transporter. So we were like, let's do something really cool for the trick, and we haven't put like jacks underneath this car to be able to change a tire. We just get up to the pits, we connect this hose to the other one, to the other tank that's bigger. Boom, it goes, and the people are just like, oh my, Hurt wants this. Like he's like, I'm getting these. Like I don't care what you did to get these, I want these on my car. If you have a low car and we have this big diffuser, you can't really jack it up by the standard like subframe or diff or whatever you're trying to get up from over there. But once we get back, we'll add a secondary tank to the back of this compressor, which is good as well because you can like, I'm gonna relieve the pressure right now for you guys to see. So it goes down, but you can also use this to fill up your own tire. You go up to the tire or fill people. We made it long enough so that it could go all the way up to the front.
That's ridiculous.
Usually we just tuck it in the back. Like it'll take, like I'm not gonna turn it on for you to see because it'll take like 5 minutes to do an initial fill. But once you're riding around the track and you come back, it's already full again. It's not like you're gonna do it. But if you're here sitting, Adam asked me to lift it up and I was like, oh, it was so embarrassing because it was like taking so long for it to do. We were like, no. But anyways, bigger tank or an airlift tank. We put a vane pump in here and this thing is gonna like pump this high off the air. We set, it's kind of like a coilover where you can preset it to how much it expands. We have it going only up like 1.5 inches off the floor, so just enough for us to pull the wheels off and that's it. We just did it in front of you there. I don't think you noticed how fast we changed the wheels. Right before
I saw it. I was like laughing,
on the air jacks. People love it. I'm in love. This is race car shit. Nuke Performance is the one that came out with this, and I'm sure more and more cars that you're gonna be able to see with that. So just PMC shifter on it, basic NRG steering. The hydro, this hydro, we actually make these. It's a dual caliper kit. We make these hydros, stock location, easy to pull on, very fun, kind of like the Japanese cars. I'm trying to get used to it, so when I go back, I can actually not drive well. I'll open the hood. Suspension is just running stock off-the-shelf VCs. Works fucking great. Just set up like it's amazing. Fiberglass hood that was already on it, just painted because I don't like fiberglass things. But S54, 50,000 miles. So what happened to this, like it's been a phenomenal motor, but there's 2 things happening on this trip. One is that this car is consuming water. It's not going into the oil, it's not blowing out the exhaust, it's just consuming, I would say probably like a gallon, maybe 12, 15 laps or so. Like it's getting better and better. It's possibly fixing itself. We put Blue Devil on it, recommendation by like Chelsea Denolfi. He was like, just throw it in there and screw it. Like it'll fix it. He's a big fan of it. We're not, and he's like, put it in.
Is every car you buy from Chelsea has Blue Devil in it.
It probably does.
So just keep going.
So
Sorry,
we put it in, it didn't do much. We actually removed the thermostat and that made it even worse, which you see the tank is like fully like full of stuff because it was getting actually hot. The car does not get hot, it just consumes the water. So now we got a system going. I'll drive enough times with it and then just stop, let it cool down, see if there's no pressure, put water in and keep ripping it. It will not get hot, I just keep doing that and it's working, so I'll leave it alone. But what happened is that when this tank actually got super hot, it sprayed water into my ECU, and that's what happened when we were about to leave. So when we opened this cap and looked inside, because we were like, how is the water actually getting in there? We figured out that it was the same stuff, the same Blue Devil stuff was inside of the ECU. So it hit the ECU, burned the ignition driver inside of the ECU, and it burnt my, we went through like 3 coil packs because it kept burning them up, splitting them in half, and then we didn't know what it was coming. The wires were completely fine, thankfully, or otherwise. But when you're like at the fine art shop there, you're like, hey, let's get out of here, like it's time to go, and then we're like, oh no, this didn't just happen, because this is supposed to be the simplest, less work, just get out there and have fun. And then we're like, wow, what did we get ourselves into?
Just one thing, this is a dream motor that E36 guys like dream of, and you're like, this is just the simplest thing, no big deal, nothing to worry about, and guys are like drooling over this motor. I've never had one of these. I drool over this. I would love to drive this.
It's expensive now. It used to be, but the part outs and BMWs and the hype and everything like that, I got it for a good deal. So to me, it came to me at a price at a S52.
Right, but still the swap, the time, your skill to put it in, it's a $10,000 swap for any normal person.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, it's a dream thing, and he's just like, no big deal.
So I'm so used to putting other like JZs, LSs, and things like that, that it's like, it was the simplest. But I will tell you this swap requires the least amount of modifications of any other car that we've ever done. You take this motor, it uses a stock E36 motor mounts. You don't have to adapt anything. You can just get some eBay Megan headers, put on this thing to open her up a little bit, or you can use the stock stuff. It will bolt on directly to your OEM exhaust, like with little modification. I have AC in this, which is a huge plus. So that was, to me, was the biggest thing. Yeah, it's cool just to swap a BMW to BMW, but having AC in this was the best thing that we, like in Arizona, I was dying. I was like, I'm not used to that dry weather, and I'm like, I need something like for us to at least, lips, nose, like the whole thing. So I'm like, I need something for me to at least be able to breathe. So I'm like, put AC on it, we charge it up, it works phenomenal. We shut the windows, cruising down the highway, you feel like you're in your stock car, you're daily. That's the beauty of like having something this simple on Drift Week. I see all the guys with the dog boxes and stuff, and I'm like, I would never bring something like that on a trip like this. I can't even tell how many of those cars I've seen breaking something that is like kind of extreme, almost taking them out of Drift Week, and then they're back into Drift Week again.
People swapping motors.
There's somebody swapping a whole crank and putting bearings on the car.
We've had 2 motor swaps basically so far. People are crazy.
The Corolla as well.
Oh, 3 motor swaps. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm so busy, I don't even know what all the drivers are doing. Okay, so we'll run through a couple more things. His biggest problem so far was he fried an ECU because water got on it at the first track. Second day?
Second day, yeah.
Then they had to actually trailer the car because there wasn't enough time, and we just happened to have a trailer coming back from one of the competitors that drove it.
You hooked us up with the guys, and like we were about to get a U-Haul, do a whole mission, and he's like, hey, that trailer is actually going back to Texas, why don't you pay them? So they were about to spend
thousands of dollars probably moving the car, and I'm like, guys, why don't you just go 10 feet that way and put your car on that?
This car barely fit that trailer. It's made for a Corolla. The guy, Juan and Tyson, like really phenomenal guys. They were like, let's do whatever it took. Like they put 2x4s on the trailer just to get it up. Their car is so narrow that it barely fits their car. This thing wouldn't even fit. We removed the spacers. We put wood on it, propped it up on there, and the guys delivered the car to Austin, I think, to us. perfect. Like I couldn't have asked for anything better. They actually got us the shop Boost Logic to tune the new ECU. Chelsea was ready to ship a ECU, do overnight things and whatever, but because it was the weekend, it wasn't gonna happen. So he's like, hey, let me ship you ECU. I started calling around, called the guy that actually had done the initial tune. I couldn't get a hold of him. So the guy that works at Boost Logic, he was like, Rome, he's like, hey, I have an ECU, call your guy, do whatever you need to do. I'll come in Sunday, flash the ECU, because these are obviously not a full tune. You just read, write them, and they're done. Like the car is ready to be put back on the road. My scare was that we'd put the ECU and something else was wrong. So again, Tyson and the other, this is what it's about, like helping each other get to the next level. One thing you did, so we ended up having to go to the airport though, because yes, the car had a space to go, but we didn't.
Oh,
we
really?
couldn't fit in the van. So we ended up Ubering to the airport, picking up a rental, and driving the rental all the way to
If y'all would have
Texas.
told me, I could have got you in another car.
But you guys were already gone by
Yeah.
that time.
I was like, there's a hard out at 3 p.m. I was like, get out.
Get out. You're like, push the car out of the gate. I don't care what you do. No, but
I'm not
for
trying to
real,
be
he's
mean,
like,
but
no.
I told everybody in advance.
This is
I
the
was
only
like,
way.
get
Otherwise,
out.
people will linger and they'll never leave. And like the guys that are actually at Fine Art, which are amazing
They're
guys,
amazing.
they needed to leave as well for the trip. So they're not trying to hang around and help everybody fix their cars. They're like, yeah, it's cool, work here on your car as long as you want, whatever. They got me a bunch of coil packs using their account for super cheap. They're like, here, take this in case you need it. But we ended up stop working with it. You gotta know your limit at this, or otherwise you keep chasing like ghosts. So we put it on the trailer, guys took off, gave them a little bit of money, which probably wasn't enough for them to go on the trip and take the car. We rented the car, which was really expensive. It was like $800 because I had to
it doesn't
pay.
go back to the same
Exactly. So that was a $500 surcharge to be able to drop it, which was cool. I mean, driving back on a nice car through that section of the trip, but it didn't feel right. The whole purpose of this trip is to make it all the way through. So we get there, we tune the car, we
I
get
can't
back.
let them leave though because they have the van.
We have
had
the
to have
van,
them
so
there.
if we abandon the trip, then it's like everybody's gonna
van's
cry.
gone.
But we would stay regardless. So we're like, let's make it a NOLA. The biggest point was, let's make it a NOLA, let's get the car there. If we get the car there and it breaks here, I've driven enough, I'll send another car, I'll bring my other street car, and I'll still have fun. I'll meet you guys at Clutch Kickers, something. But I was like, this is so disappointing. Not to be able to know if I was gonna drive the next event. Little to no sleep, just getting up and figuring, trying to like make everybody work around. But it came through. Like midday, I got, not only did I get the car all settled up, retuned and reflashed again, we got an alignment done on the car at Firestone, ate right next to it, met a couple of the guys. Then we were back on the trip. We did the burnout around the cop car. Like we were all there with them. This car was still on the trailer, but we're all there at the same time. So I felt like, oh, I'm part of the trip again. Continued on and we made it here so far. At this, between the last Speed Sports Park.
Racing Park.
So between that event and this one, we've gone through 2 axles so far, and because this is a non-M3, so these axles are garbage. They're like this thin compared to like the fat Johnnies that come on the M3. So I didn't want to go through a full swap, trailer and arm out. Again, wanted to keep it as simple as possible. Put a diff brace, nothing crazy on the back. We went through 2 axles and 2 rotors. I had drilled rotors on this thing, and it just glazed them. It got super hot, and pretty much like they weren't biting. I was pulling the hydro so far back that I got like, I couldn't even move my arm yesterday. I was like a retard, like walking around, like doing, people are like, what's wrong with the arm? Like just pulling the hydro. Like I saw my video in the car and I was like this in the car. So anyways, we got it back and it's been pretty much, I changed tires, add a little bit of water and keep going. Yesterday I got a ton of laps.
How many laps have you gotten the whole trip?
Hundreds.
And how many tires have you gone through?
2.
Isn't that insane?
I'm like,
so
I wouldn't want to be a Kenda like rep because this trip has not 8 tires. It's unbelievable.
Also, if you turn around,
Look
I have
at
a lot
these.
of tires. Oh wait, we should have been shooting this way the whole time. What are we doing? We have a cool tire wall.
Too late.
This is the display.
Let's do
Look
it
at all
again.
these Kendas. Anyways,
amazing tires.
So people were complaining, by the way. They're like, oh, I'm not going through tires. I'm like, you guys are idiots. Don't complain about not going through tires. You've got hundreds of laps and you're like, you're mental. We're not going through tires. Appreciate it. But now we have all these tires left over.
Aaron has to deal with this. He has so much tire left.
Oh my God. We've only gone through, as the group, about 85 tires or 95 tires.
Especially.
Oh, no. We're just over 100 actually. But that's for 30 drivers.
Especially today, that's a bit moist outside. As you can see, the car's a little dirty from like yesterday. It rained a little bit, which made it like you just don't consume the tires. It's like between the last track, which I thought like were easy on the pavement. This track is amazing. You could run here 300 laps on a set of tires. For me, to be honest with you, I changed tires just a little bit ago because I'm like, I don't know what to do with it anymore. It's like at the mark there, but I'm like, maybe I'll just put another set just because. Otherwise, I might make it through the entire thing with 4 tires.
Yeah.
Like I just might. So clutch kickers is also very easy on the tires, but where people are gonna use the most amount of tires, Freedom Factory.
And probably a whole car.
Yes, probably a whole car.
We might have a high jump contest.
Yeah.
Okay, let's finish. Thank you so much. High five. He said I could drive it. This is video evidence. He said I could drive. Can I?
People know, of course.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I like playing drive because he didn't have a car and he hit the deer and I felt bad and I'm like, go drive it, which he did great.
The red car, by the way, was Chelsea's, was my car. I used to have like an S50 or S52 in it. Yeah. I went and got it for like $2 grand. And Chelsea was like, that's my car, you're selling that to me, and refused. So I sold it to Chelsea for $2 grand or whatever. I don't remember, maybe 2,400 bucks because I charged him for the fuel. I went to go get it, and he put that S54 in it, and I was like, I'm selling you this car as long as I get to drive it sometime. And I've never driven the car before.
No, that car, I drove it a couple weeks ago. It's great.
Yeah, I need to go drive it. So I've never driven an S54. I have driven a Euro one. Well, no, it was in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. There was a Euro one.
They're very close. This car is missing a little bit of torque. When we actually went to go retune it, the tuner, RK Tunes, Jordan is excellent with these cars. He said instead of having the headers go into a single like the stock one is, just go to duals because I have the quad exhaust. So mid-range between like 3 and 4, you're gonna feel a little loss of power. But now it revs up to like 8,200 RPM, so you can
I'll just stay between 6 and 8.
No, you send it.
Okay.
Send it.
Thank you so much.
All
See
right.
you later.